Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, President Tinubu swears in 45 ministers with a call to serve Nigeria. Civil society organizations defy police ban in Kano, protest. Bandits abduct 8 NYC members in Zamfara State. And on the foreign scene, South Africa's president promises neutrality ahead of BRICS summit. Hello there. Thank you very much for making time for joining us on the News Hour. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. We start in Abuja as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says he will hold the newly sworn-in ministers to high standards of excellence in service delivery, accountability and transparency. 45 ministers were on Monday sworn into office, and the president, while giving his remark, reminded the ministers not to represent regional or state-specific interests, but to serve Nigeria as a whole. Kehinde Amodu reports.
The ministers are sworn in batches of 5, which means the president administers in 9 cycles the oaths of office and allegiance to the 45 persons coming into the cabinet. The elation and excitement is almost tangible in the banquet hall of the presidential villa, but the president is quick to issue to the ministers a sobering reminder. A reminder of the onerous task ahead and the high expectations of Nigerians.
It is a high honor to be chosen to serve as a minister in the Federal Executive Council of our beloved republic. With such high honor comes tremendous responsibility. In this moment of abundant promise and peril in equal measure.
Contrary to skeptical analysis, President Tinubu is clear that the newly appointed ministers were carefully selected based on their track records of excellence in both the public and private sectors. The ministers are aware of the tough task that lies before them, but are promising to live up to expectation.
Nigeria should be expecting a departure from the norm. Everybody knows what's been happening in that solid mineral sector of the economy. It's been frittered away. Nigeria has been shortchanged. We've been receiving the shorter end of the stick. There is going to be a critical departure from that norm.
Well, not only my ministry, every ministry. The expectation of Nigeria or Nigerians is that you key into the hope agenda of Mr. President. Each ministry has a role to play.
The president has sounded a warning to his new ministers that they cannot disappoint Nigerians, who expect them to serve with integrity, dignity, and competence to actualize the Renewed Hope Manifesto. He has also warned that if they fail, he will not hesitate to take necessary remedial measures. From State House Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
In a related development, the newly inaugurated Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has warned those distorting the master plan of the FCT to expect demolition of their properties soon. The immediate past River State Governor spoke while assuming office as FCT Minister in Abuja on Monday. Wike says his administration will demolish all illegal structures regardless of how highly placed the owners might be.
All those people who are distorting the master plan of Abuja, too bad, too bad. If you know you are built where you're not supposed to build, it will go down. It will go down. Be a minister of anywhere, be an ambassador. If you know you have developed where you're not supposed to develop, your house must go what? Down. Those who have taken over the green areas to build, sorry, our parks must come back. The green areas must come back. If you hate green, you must hate yourself. So if you know you have anybody who is involved and have taken over the green areas, have taken over the parks, to where you now do restaurants, no, we will not accept that. Sorry. If your father have done that, sorry. If your mother have done that, sorry. There's nothing I can do. It will go down. I don't care whom you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you know, we must sanitize the place.
Safe to say that there's a new sheriff in town. Well, in a related development, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has assumed office after formal inauguration of the Federal Executive Council by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Monday. Meanwhile, Minister of Arts, Culture, Creative Economy, Hannatu Musawa, and Minister of Tourism, Lola Adejon, have also assumed duties at the Radio House in Abuja. The ministers, while addressing staff, promised to deliver on the mandate of the president with transparency, accountability, creativity, and result-oriented leadership. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports.
Before now, it was called Ministry of Information and Culture. But President Bola Tinubu unbundled it to accommodate three respective ministers. Mohammed Idris is the Minister of Information and National Orientation. He speaks on its outlook, expectations, and covenant with Nigerians.
Mr. President has said I should come and tell you to come and say it the way it is. Mr. President didn't send me here to come and lie. And this is a covenant that I'm going to take with you and Nigerians, that we are going to say it as it is.
Hannatu Musawa is now saddled with the responsibility of running the affairs of Ministry of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy.
With this ministry, we're going to do a number of things. Apart from bringing in revenue for the nation, we are going to export Nigeria to the outside world.
Lola Adejon is Pioneer Minister of Tourism, which before now is subsumed in the Information Ministry. She speaks on her new thinking.
There is a major emphasis on revenue generation, and tourism is going to be heavily, we are going to go on a heavy revenue drive.
The three ministers will now face the daunting task of delivering the much-anticipated renewed hope agenda in the areas of information management and citizens' orientation, cultural rejuvenation and creativity, in addition to exploration of tourism potentials for enhanced economy. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Well, let's try and get some insight into the development around the formation of the Federal Executive Council. That cycle is finally complete with the inauguration of the 45 ministers. Joining us now on the News Hour is Hussaini Tukur, an associate professor with the Nasarawa State University, KEFI, to unpack some of these developments. Doctor, thank you very much for coming on the program. I appreciate you very much for stopping by this evening.
Thank you very much.
Right. First of all, your initial impression on the president's remarks, and you've heard some of these sound bites there from the ministers who have taken, assumed their role as ministers. What is your impression of what has happened today?
First of all, the inauguration is a normal procedure that always happens during a change of government. The newly appointed ministers have been sworn in, and it is their duty now to take over the respective ministries assigned to them and to start work. But what is important is about the expectation Nigerians have about them. Those expectations are very important, and therefore there is need for them to either do things. One is to fulfill the mandate of those ministries that were assigned to them. There are works ongoing in the respective ministries which they are supposed to review and proceed in implementing some of them to the logical conclusion. Secondly, the incoming government has assigned responsibilities based on the promises it has made over time, and they need also to fulfill those promises. So every minister is going to his respective ministry with the promise to fulfill the mandate given to the president through his promises he made during campaign.
All right. Okay. It is one thing to make a promise during the campaigns, because a lot of people would say that politicians can tell you anything to win your votes. but it is a totally different ball game when they get into power. You've heard some of the ministers speak there, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and some of the ministers, Information, Culture and Tourism, Solid Mirrors. We've heard some of their soundbites there talking about what they're bringing to the table. Is it one of those situations where it is easier said than done? Because Nigerians will say we've been here before. Promises of change, promises of doing things differently and effectively, but Nigerians get disappointed at the end of the day.
This is natural in all political process. What happens is that you make your promises, but God disposes. One important thing is that whoever makes promises is making promises in anticipation that the situation will assist him to fulfill his promise. Normally when you come in, you are a novice. You have to evaluate the current situation, the work before you, and the various people that you work together with. And these are what determine your success, not the promises you make, not the resources available, not the people on the ground, but your commitment, the expertise, the resources, and other things. These are what determine your success. There are also many challenges in the country. And those challenges are not in isolation. They happen in all ministries and agencies. And therefore, those also are a determinant factor in your success.
Right. Okay. And talking about one particular remark that the president made, he did talk about how their track record is responsible for why they are chosen for this national assignment. He did talk about responsibility, but he also did remark about how he's going to hold them to the highest standard of service delivery, accountability, and so on and so forth. How confident are you about that being a reality, especially from the past experiences where we've seen so many irregular activities, corrupt activities happen under the nose of past administrations without the president necessarily doing something about it?
It is important that we hold the president in his word. First of all, the previous governments, not only the last one, have made similar promises. I've tried to hold some of their ministers accountable and some functionaries of government accountable, but it has been difficult. We do not know what kind of mechanism or strategy the president will put in place to evaluate the performance of his ministers within a certain period. Say, for instance, in 100 days, 6 months, or a year. But what is important is that if a government wants to hold its ministers and functionaries responsible, it should also be ready to be held accountable and responsible to the people.
Right.
We have not seen that so far since the inauguration of democracy in Nigeria. But we hope to hold the president accountable and responsible in his vote. More so that the previous government has not tried what Nigeria expected in holding ministers responsible and accountable.
Yeah, we saw the president take back some names during the nomination process, during the screening process, and just before the inauguration on Monday, there was some reshufflements about the allocation of certain portfolios to certain ministries. Is that indicative of how President Tinubu is going to run his administration, that perhaps you might see a minister not necessarily serve out his entire term under one ministry?
And that should be our hope. Those that are not performing should be shown the way out. But one thing is important. If the president can spend 2 months or more than 2 months trying to sort out those that he works with as ministers, and that he has already assigned portfolio, and within the shortest possible time, based on comments and criticism, the president is now changing. That means that there is a lot that will come out. It means that there is ongoing work which the president is not satisfied with, and which we believe also will be a president that will be naturally responding to criticism, to agitation of people.
Right. Professor Hussaini Tukur, thank you most kindly for sharing your 2 cents with us on this development. We appreciate you very much for stopping by on the news. Thank you for the analysis.
Thank you very much.
Right. Moving on to some of the day's other news now. A group under the umbrella of the Northwest Civil Society Anti-Corruption Network has called on President Bola Tinubu to ensure that nothing interferes with the outcome of the Kano Governorship Election Petition Tribunal. The group, which is made up of over 150 civil society organizations, made the call during a peaceful protest in Kano on Monday. The report.
The groups allege that some politicians are attempting to bribe judges ahead of the final ruling, an action they said they are all against.
Your Excellency, the recent revelation credited to one of the judges in Kano Election Tribunal is a clear indication that some people are working to manipulate the judicial processes. Despite hugely recorded electoral fraud, such as ringing, massive use of money to induce voters, attempt to create violence as another machinery to scare the Kano voters from exercising the franchise to choose the candidate of their choices. The level of this exhibited anxiety engineered through the work of some desperate politician is not only worrisome but also dangerous to the continued survival of our democracy.
Recently, there were attempts by some senior lawyers to bribe judges who are handling election cases in Kano State. One of the judges came out recently to inform the world that a senior lawyer has made that attempt.
While the protesters were at the government house, the governor assured the civil society groups that he would deliver their letters to the president personally.
We have listened to earlier grievances. We have listened to earlier complaints. And we want to assure you that by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am traveling to Abuja purposely to deliver this letter hand to hand.
The protesters are hopeful that the ruling of the tribunal will reflect the will of the people when it is made public.
Well, still staying in Kano, earlier in the day, the police in Kano had announced banning all kinds of street protests across the state. The State Police Commissioner in Kano, Muhammad Gumel, said the ban followed intelligence reports that some members of the opposition APC and the ruling NNPP in the state are mobilizing crowds to preempt the judgment of the Election Petition Tribunal. The commissioner said the planned protest is uncivil and criminal, adding that security agencies will not allow the fragile security situation in Kano be compromised.
In consideration of the confirmatory intelligence products at the disposal of this police command, all forms of street protest are hereby banned across all parts of the state. Members of the public should therefore note that it has come to our knowledge that both APC and the NNPP members are currently mobilizing a rented crowd in the guise of civil society coalition, and without clearance from the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress and without prior approval from the security agencies in the state. Umbrella body should note that any attempt to disrespect NLC and security agencies in the state by playing around the fragile security situation which the combined security agencies have been managing is not only uncivil but criminal and also an offense against national security.
And in Zamfara, the State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Sokoto has reserved judgment on the petition filed by Bello Matowalle challenging the election of Dauda Lawal as the governor of Zamfara State. The three-man panel of justices led by Justice Cordelia Ogadi reserved the judgment to a day to be communicated to the parties after three respondents and the petitioner Bello Matowalle had adopted their written addresses to close their arguments and presentation of witnesses. The report.
The first respondent is Dauda Lawal, the second respondent is the People's Democratic Party PDP, and the third respondent is the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC. They all prayed that the Zamfara State Governorship Election Tribunal to dismiss the petition filed by Governor Bello Matowalle challenging the March 8 governorship election for lacking merit. The three respondents cited Oyetola vs. Ademola, arguing that the petitioner had failed to prove his case, and they therefore urged the tribunal to dismiss the petition. The lead counsel to the first respondent, Damian Dudu, told journalists shortly after the adoption of the written addresses that they prayed the tribunal to dismiss the petition for lack of substantial evidence.
We have finished our duty as lawyers in bringing the facts before the court, supporting the facts with the evidence, and then building upon the evidence with what the law says. With regards to the law and cases decided by Superior Court. And we hope that this will assist the court in making the right judgment as far as this petition is concerned.
Lead counsel to the petitioner, Usman Sule, said in their submissions, they stated that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, had unlawfully excluded the result sheet of 98,564 voters of Maradun local government area of the state, adding that even when the elections were not concluded in some local government areas, a winner was declared. He submitted that based on the evidence presented before the 2023 Zamfara State Governorship Election Tribunal, they are hopeful the judgment will be in their petition's favor.
And the INEC on their own unlawfully excluded a result sheet from Maradun High Government, wherein we scored 98,504 votes. And if that vote is collated and added to the figure, Matara could have ordinarily declared the ultimate lawful winner of that election. This was our contest in this tribunal.
The March 8 governorship election in Zamfara State was keenly contested by the then incumbent Governor Bello Matawalle of the All Progressive Congress (APC) and Dauda Lawal of the opposition's People Democratic Party (PDP), in which Lawal defeated the incumbent governor. Isa Ismaila, Trust TV News.
Now, residents of at least 23 local government areas in Sokoto, Zamfara and Kebbi states are living in fear of kidnappers, cattle rustlers and bandits who have continued to make life difficult for residents. A check by the News Agency of Nigeria indicates that residents of the affected areas have been forced to migrate, enter into agreement with the criminals, or live a life of uncertainty. In Sokoto State, residents say local governments was affected include Isa, Sabon Birni, Gwadabawa, Ilela, Tangaza and Goronyo. The Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of the state, Abubakar Bawa, said the state government is aware of the enormity of the situation. Bawa said they are giving priority to ensuring a safe environment, noting that addressing security challenges remains top on the administration's 9-point agenda. In Zamfara State, a civil society activist, Faruk Shehu, says many communities in the 14 local government areas of the state have been displaced, with residents of Maru, Anka, Shinkafi, Maradun, Zurmi, Gusau and Bungudu local government areas worst affected. The situation in Kebbi State has already claimed the lives of at least 2,500 people between 2019 and 2023, according to Bamei Aniko, the Secretary of Zuru Development Foundation. Aniko said that 2,500 people were killed in Danko, Wasagu, Fakai, Sakaba and Zuru local government areas under Zuru Emirate. Still talking security, gunmen on Saturday kidnapped 8 members of the National Youth Service Corps along a highway in Zamfara State. Reports say the Corps members were on their way to Sokoto through Zamfara, where they are expected to participate in the mandatory national service, when their bus, operated by AKTC, was stopped along the highway in Zamfara. Relatives of the Corps members said 11 Corps members were present, but 3 of them managed to escape the kidnappers. Apart from the 8 Corps members, the driver of the bus was also abducted. A claim indicates that the kidnappers, who had gotten in touch with parents of one of the kidnapped Corps members, have requested a ransom to the tune of 4 million naira. Now, the Nigerian Army has rescued another missing Chibok girl named Mary Nkeke during an offensive operation against terrorists in Borno State. The theater commander of Operation Hadinkai, Major General Gold Chibuisi, disclosed this at a press briefing in Memalari Cantonment in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. He said the missing Chibok girl, aged 27, was rescued by troops of 81 Task Force Battalion in Dikwa local government area of the state. While assuring that the remaining Chibok girls will be found, he added that the rescued Mary Nkeke will be handed over to the Borno State government.
She is on serial number 55 of the abducted Chibok girls list. Mary is 27 years old. Kibaku by tribe from Kabul Mbola village in Chibok, local government area of Borno State. While in captivity, she was forcefully married to one Adam, a Boko Haram terrorist fighter. Since her rescue, she has undergone thorough medical examination in our medical facility. Equally, she has been adequately resuscitated and will be handed over to the Borno State government for further administration.
Right, in some of the day's other news, the Nigerian Army says it has commenced investigation into alleged killing of a Lagos-based driver. The driver was allegedly killed by some persons in military uniform on August 17 this year. This was contained in a statement on Sunday by Lieutenant Colonel Olabisi Ayeni, Acting Deputy Director of Army Public Relations 81 Division. The Army says though information into the allegation is still scanty, it is appropriate, according to the Army, to bring the occurrence to the public notice and for steps to be taken to identify the alleged persons in military uniform believed to be soldiers and bring them to justice if truly they are serving Nigerian soldiers. The statement further says that the division is currently carrying out investigation in conjunction with the Nigerian police in Lagos to unravel the identity of the alleged suspects and the circumstances surrounding the alleged unfortunate incident. The Army commiserates with the family of the victim while promising that justice will be served accordingly. This is the News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up ahead, we'll tell you the story of a 13-year-old invention aiming to mitigate flooding in Borno State. More details coming up ahead after the break.
Jama'a ga wata muhimmiyar sanarwa, hukumar raya birnin tarayya Abuja da haɗin gwiwar dukkanin harɗawa shugabannin rigage na Fulani da ƙungiyar Miyatta Allah reshen birnin tarayya Abuja dukkaninsu suna bayyana damuwarsu akan yadda waɗansu mutane suke sakin shanu suna kiwo sakaka a birnin tarayya Abuja. Don haka hukumar raya birnin tarayya Abuja da ta kare muhalli ta birnin suna sanar da dukkanin al'umma tare da gargaɗi akan cewa an hana kiwo na shanu da sauran dabbobi da tsuntsaye a cikin birnin domin suna haddasa bata muhalli da kuma cunkoson ababen hawa a cikin wannan birni. Saboda haka duk wanda aka samu ya karya wannan doka zai fuskanci hukunci, kasancewar akwai gurin da hukumar raya birnin tarayya Abuja ta ware domin kiwo a cikin su. Don haka tabbatar ka bi doka ka kuma haɗa hannu da hukumar raya birnin tarayya Abuja domin tabbatar da tsaftar wannan birni. Wannan sako ne daga hukumar tsaftace muhalli ta birnin tarayya Abuja.
That's right, you too could be one of the 20 Zenith Bank customers that will win 150,000 Naira every 2 weeks from June 1st, 2023 until May 31st, 2024 in the Zenith Better Life Promo 3. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Live the better life with Zenith Bank.
Welcome back to the news. Now here are the stories making the headlines. President Tinubu swears in 45 ministers with a call to serve Nigeria. Civil society organizations defy police ban, stage protest in Kano. Now, the Kaduna State government has announced a downward review of tuition fees in state-owned tertiary institutions across the state to cushion the effect of subsidy removal and the general rise in the cost of living. Governor Obasani made the announcement during a parley with media officials at this Kashim Ibrahim House in Kaduna. Here's the report.
The governor said it was part of his commitment to fulfill his campaign promises to the people of Kaduna State, as well as to ensure that there is no record of school dropout due to the current economic reality.
That the extant fees regime in the state-owned tertiary institutions is burdensome and has led to a significant decline in students' enrollment. B. That the extant fees has made many students to either abandon the pursuit of tertiary education or move to alternative institutions. C. That to reverse the trend mentioned, it is imperative that a competitive fees model should be adopted in our tertiary institutions.
Sani explained that the measure is also to serve as palliative as a result of the fuel subsidy removal.
This downward review of the extant fees regime aligns with our commitment to offer palliatives to cushion the effects of the general rising cost of living in the polity, especially in the wake of recent petroleum subsidy removal in Nigeria.
Though parents welcome the development, they, however, want the government to do more to improve the educational system in the state.
This come to us, it's something that long waiting for. It's something long development that we've been waiting for to happen, because they have said it in their campaign that they will do the school fees, knowing fully well that is one of our itching problems. That the increase in school fees is related to some of our children have to drop out from their institutions.
So there's a need for government to put in to take a proactive measures in ensuring that not only secondary schools are being protected, but even our tertiary institution too.
The previous administration of Nasri El-Rufai increased school fees of tertiary institutions in the state by over 150% in 2021. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
And in Gombe State, residents have been reacting to the federal government's approval and allocation of 5 billion naira to states to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. Now, this followed the flag-off of the distribution of palliatives targeting 450,000 beneficiaries across the state by Governor Inuayaya, which has elicited mixed reactions from residents in the state. Ibrahim Ismail has more.
Nigerians have been struggling to survive due to the high cost of living since the implementation of the fuel subsidy removal in May this year. Following the implementation, there were calls for palliatives to ease the suffering Nigerians were subjected to. The long-awaited palliatives were announced by the presidency, while governors are tasked to share food items to their subjects, a decision that sparked criticisms.
Well, in the first place, we are not learning from our past mistakes, and I don't expect President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to do that. But unfortunately, he was able to release 5 billion naira to each state in Nigeria. I doubt if out of 5 billion naira that was released to each state, those states, less than maybe 10% will use such amount of money in making sure that the vulnerable women and children and men in their state benefited from such amount of money.
Now, if you give a state 5 billion naira, to what extent will it reach the grassroots citizens? And this has been a concern. We really do not trust most of the mediums government use to reach out to the people. And then you always realize that the same set of people keep benefiting from every government program. And then the larger population are left aside. So for us, it's a concern. We have a very, very serious concern about even accountability of the funds we're even talking about.
Public commentators have raised concerns on the formula adopted by the federal government in approving 5 billion naira to all states without considering their respective populations.
or send such money directly to each local government account. Each local government has an account, and the federal government has the account number of such local government. So I condemn such in totality, and I don't expect that will yield or help go a long way in reducing or cushioning the effect of what we are going through in Nigeria.
Gombe state government has commenced distribution of relief materials to 450,000 people as part of the federal government's palliatives to a state that has over 3 million population. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
Well, staying in the Northeast, the National Union of Miners in Northeastern Zone have decried the setting up of a committee by the Taraba State government to stop mining in the state. At a briefing organized by the union, the group says over 100 miners have been arrested in Mbagi Kolo district of Tongo local government area of Adamawa State. Here's the report.
The Secretary, National Union of Miners Northeastern States, Salisu Shoaibu Mezari, said the union followed all legal procedures, starting with the Federal Ministry of Solid Materials, the Adamawa State Ministry of Solid Materials, Tongo Local Government Authority, and the district head of Mbagi Kolo, where they are carrying out their mining activities. Recently, the Taraba State Governor Abu Keifas banned mining activities in the state, while the committee set to stop mining allegedly crossed the border and entered Adamawa State and arrested over 100 miners in the field.
Since the government started this issue, we have restrained ourselves from speaking because this is something that has to do with the entire state, and we are expecting the state to do the needful. As law-abiding citizens, our union is ready to support the state government's desire to make life better for the citizens by not supporting illegal mining too. This is the reason we are always calling on our workers everywhere to ensure that they follow due process before mining.
According to him, the union was issued with a license to continue with their mining activities in the area, adding that stopping their members from mining was against the terms of agreements they entered into.
Members of our committee that have been arrested were operating legally with the consent of the federal, state, local government, and that of the district head of the particular area. Because in Adamawa State, before you are issued with an approval to commence mining, you must have gotten a nod from the ward head up to the Lamido of Adamawa and the state government.
The secretary confirmed that since solid materials ceased to exist in the areas of Karim Lamido local government and the area of Sardona local government for the past 19 months, none of their members mined in the state. He therefore called on relevant authorities from the federal, state, local government and the district levels to intervene for their members to be released unharmed.
To be frank, we are not happy with the Taraba State Committee and what they did to our members by stopping them from carrying out mining activities. We are appealing to the relevant stakeholders, including President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to look at the situation and do the needful, because those things that our people regard as minor issues sometimes lead to bigger problems.
The union advised the state government to join hands with them in mining to increase the state's internally generated revenue, which, according to them, is a solution to the dwindling economy in the country.
Well, staying with that story, the Taraba State government says the arrest of illegal miners in the state has created a space for legal miners to operate. The state government task force on mining, led by General Jeremiah Faransa, retired, had last week arrested over 3,000 illegal miners in Bali local government area of Taraba State. The special advisor to the governor, Abu Keifas, on media and digital communication, Emmanuel Bello, who stated this in a press statement on Monday, says the state government is not against mining activities, but is only doing its best to ensure licensed and legal mining to develop the state through the natural resources. Bello noted that Governor Keifas' administration was committed to encouraging legal businesses' activities to boost the development of Taraba and improve the life of its citizens. Now, the National Emergency Management Agency has commenced the distribution of relief materials to the victims of the 2022 flooding in Kwara State. The distribution of the relief materials was flagged off by the State Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak, who was represented by his deputy, Kayode Alabi. Here's the report.
Items distributed to the beneficiaries included agricultural inputs, food items, sewing and grinding machines, mosquito nets, and mattresses. The Director General of NEMA, Mustafa Ahmed, who was represented by Head of Monitoring and Evaluation at the agency, Ephraim Tony, said that the federal government approved the intervention specifically for people affected by the year 2022 flood disaster and those classified as most vulnerable persons across the country. Ahmed recalls that the 2022 flood disaster devastated many communities across the country, including Kwara State, where most of the people in the communities were displaced and their farmlands and crops completely washed away by water.
Search and rescue operations were successfully conducted in several locations where trapped persons were rescued and given necessary care. Immediately after the flood incident, damage and loss assessments were conducted and relief items approved by the federal government were delivered across the states to complement initial intervention by the state government.
Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, represented by his deputy Kayode Alabi, commended the effort of the federal government through NEMA for what he called the timely intervention. Abdulrazak, who urged the beneficiaries to ensure a judicious utilization of the items, reiterated the commitments of this administration towards supporting all programs that will be directed towards alleviating the socio-economic hardship of the people of the state.
We recall that our administration has done similar things at different times and places where our people have been victims of natural disaster. Indeed, we commend the effort of the federal government through NEMA for this timely intervention.
The Deputy Governor, Kwara State, some of the beneficiaries, expressed gratitude to the federal government and asked for more.
It will reduce hunger, so we really appreciate it. To cut the story short, we really appreciate it.
The NEMA boss advised beneficiaries to make judicious use of the items distributed to them to improve their socio-economic condition, thanking President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima for all support given to them towards the implementation of the intervention.
In Borno State, 13-year-old Muhammad Kaumi has created a device known as the flood indicator to help check water levels and mitigate devastating impact of flooding in the state. Borno State is one of 19 states predicted to experience heavy flooding this year. Bitrus Kursi reports from Maiduguri.
Borno State last year experienced devastating flood in 14 local government areas with over 18,000 people displaced. It claimed 5 lives and destroyed IDP camps and farmlands. It is predicted that in this year, 14 states, including Borno, will experience another flood. The fear of another possible flood inspired Muhammad Kaumi to create a flood indicator that will help mitigate the impact of such a disaster. He made the device using a sensor chip, papers, wires, powered by a laptop. It is the latest innovations among few of his collections.
Shekaran baya na kalla ana yawan yin ambaliya kuma gidajen mutane da yawa ya rushe kuma suna shan wahala.
I saw the floods last year. It was so serious and it affected many houses. A lot of people suffered so much during those moments. And we too, we live in flood-prone area. With what happened to people, this was why I made a flood indicator. The flood indicator has 3 levels. When water rises to the 2nd level, it means no cause for alarm. But when it rises to 3rd level, the device will make a beaming noise, indicating that there will be flood. The 13-year-old boy says he plans to create more, but lacks the needed support and resources.
Ina girma ina son zama engineer wanda zan constructing wasu machines wanda ko motoci wanda baya using mai sai battery.
I've been watching lots of engineering activities on television. This is what makes me believe that I can do more. Before now, I invented a mini generator that charges phone. Right now, I'm planning to invent a jet and a car that uses battery so that people will not have to buy fuel because it's very cost. But I need support and money to buy the things to make it.
Though I try my best by giving him what I could or what I have, me and his father, but to be honest, he needs a major support from the government and the non-governmental organization at large, because this will not only benefit him, I think it's going to benefit him, Nigeria and globe at large.
The young lad wants to become an engineer in life to touch the lives of many with his inventions, but that can only happen with diligent studies and support.
Quite commendable story there. Now, nephrologists in Nigeria are advocating an increase in funding infrastructure, improving legislation and regulations around organ transplant in order to advance the practice in Nigeria. Now, this is because organ transplant, which is one of the strategies used to drastically reduce mortality rate in various terminal organ disease patients, has gained significant boost across the world, with Nigeria playing catch-up in the field of medical technology. The report.
Organ transplantation, the most cost-efficient therapy according to experts, which is now gaining traction, is said to be facing some challenges in Nigeria due to some unethical practices, insufficient awareness on the provision of such service, and infrastructural barriers, hence the need to prioritize its advancement.
Donor organ shortage is the greatest, perhaps the greatest constraint limiting organ transplantation all over the world. And the waiting list for organ transplants is increasing, with many dying while on the waiting list.
Challenge of funding can be handled by government. Why? Because we believe that an all-encompassing national health insurance package that will take care of renal disease patients will be able to take care of transplantation. So if we have such, the premium may be increased a little bit, may not be in the premium that is charged to other patients, but to then be able to take care of them when they have renal disease.
With Nigerian National Health Act recommending that organ donation and harvesting be regulated following the 2008 Istanbul Declaration, experts say there is need for improvement on regulations, whether for living or diseased donations, among other measures.
The future is disease donor transplants and xenotransplantation, that's xenografts, that's getting the kidneys of pig. It's still at the experimental stage, but there has been a success story from using genetically altered pigs and transplanting them to living patient recipients. And of course, transplanting them to disease patients who are brain dead, but they are put on the ventilator.
There should be subsidized insurance scheme to cover high-end medical care. I mean, for now, insurance company does not. I don't think there's an insurance company, whatever, that covers premium that covers transplant.
Besides the psychosocial effect of emergencies from terminal organ diseases, an active terminal disease registry in all categories is said to be mandatory for effective planning, data gathering, in scaling advancement and competing with global counterparts. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The men of the Osun State Police Command have arrested 6 suspected armed robbers in the state for armed robbery. The suspects, who confessed to their crimes, were arrested by the command's anti-kidnapping squad. Hamid Oyegbade filed in this report.
After losing his job recently, Rasag Adepoju, a commercial driver, joined an armed robbery gang. He said his gang snatched several cars on Ilesha-Ife Expressway and sold the cars to buyers in Ibadan, Oyo State. He was arrested by men of the anti-kidnapping squad of Osun State Police Command. Adepoju said joblessness pushed him into joining the robbery gang. I asked gang members about how to sell it. They told me that we have a buyer already. They called the buyer immediately and he said we should bring the car to Ibadan. The policemen also arrested 3 other suspects who robbed a woman in her house at Ijebu-Jesha.
We went for a robbery, so then they caught us in the building. So that's why they brought us here, and it's our first time of doing it.
2 suspects arrested for stealing a motorcycle denied the allegation, claiming that they are private security guards who confiscated the motorcycle from the owner.
You are not the one who unlocked the bike. When they need our help, is that when they call us. Then our boss ordered me to order this boy to drive the bike and me to follow him and lead the bike to them to the station. That's all.
The police public relations officer for Osun State Police Command, Yemisi Okpalola, said the suspects will be prosecuted accordingly.
There are about 6 suspects that have been arrested in different robbery cases. And immediately we finish the investigation, they have all confessed to the crime.
The Commissioner of Police in the state, Kehinde Longe, appealed to youths in the state to strive to earn legitimate income and shun criminal activities. Amid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
Let's now turn our attention to developments on the international scene. President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has reiterated that South Africa will not be drawn into global power dynamics. South Africa is set to host a meeting of BRIC nations from Tuesday. Ramaphosa's televised address came ahead of the meeting of the BRICS nations that include Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa in Johannesburg beginning on Tuesday. Ramaphosa says South Africa will not be drawn into a contest between global powers. Instead, it will strive to work with all countries for global peace and development. He noted, however, that this does not, quote, mean that South Africa is neutral on matters of principle and national interest. Russia's President Vladimir Putin will participate virtually after he reached an agreement with President Ramaphosa not to attend the summit. He is the target of an International Criminal Court arrest warrant following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. South Africa is required under its law to arrest Putin if he enters the country. The BRICS nations account for about a quarter of the global economy, and interest in joining the group has surged this year. In the United States, the first tropical storm to hit Los Angeles in more than 80 years has unleashed floods across parts of Southern California, with officials urging the public to stay safe as they begin counting the cost of the damage. The National Weather Service downgraded the hurricane to a tropical depression, but not before California Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency for much of Southern California, with flash flooding until Monday. Mountain and desert areas could get 5 to 10 inches of rare rain, as much as the deserts typically see in a year. Forecasters say Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass said she was still worried that people could let down their guard if Hillary left them initially unharmed, but later bans on the storm swung back to surprise those who were not prepared. Hillary's center was expected to move quickly across Nevada on Monday, with the storm forecast to dissipate later in the day, the Weather Service said. The storm had passed northward through Mexico's Baja California Peninsula, killing at least one person in Mexico and triggering flash flooding and sweeping away roads. Now let's get the very latest in the world of sports.
Dreams of slam dunks and fast breaks. More and more young athletes are embracing basketball as a sport that truly speaks to their aspirations. Coaches and mentors at basketball clubs say the interest of youth in other sports aside football should be harnessed to make a positive impact on their lives.
We try as much as possible to see how we can contribute towards taking off the minds of the youths from being idle.
In a world where young people often grapple with stress, anxiety and uncertainty, these young people say they are not just playing a game, they are finding a way to cope with life's hurdles.
Basketball, I can say, is like my peace of mind. If I feel angry, if I'm depressed, I just come to the court and I forget about it.
I'll turn myself an overthinker. I think too much and my mind wanders a lot. Whenever I come to play basketball, whenever I come for training, I focus just on one thing, and that is the game. It is something that keeps me sane, let me say.
I met a lot of people, people from different places, different attitude, manners, all these things. The ones that are friendly, the ones that will bully you so that you will know how to play the game most.
Local basketball courts are witnessing a surge in activity as more and more young talents are trading their footballs for basketballs.
When we started here, we don't have up to maybe 20 kids that usually come here. But right now I can boast that the academy has well over 50-60 kids that are coming here, and more are coming.
There are like 72 of them. I picked them up. Initially, I picked only 20. That 20 that I picked, before you know, the first day I picked 20. The second day when we arrived in training, I made almost 100 plus.
Regular physical activity has been linked to decreased symptoms of anxiety and even depression. Increasing numbers at these sports venues are an indication of some level of triumph over drug abuse and other social vices.
Most of our youth that engage themselves in the use and abuse of substances, you see that they are just a bunch of guys that just sit down in one place, not doing anything. And they take these substances most of the time to while away time and some other things. But if you compare with those that engages themselves in sporting activity, one, it's something that let me say occupy them instead of being idle, not doing anything. If you are thinking of it from all sides, sports truly is a very big key out of substance abuse.
Well, the appeal I have to other people is let's not look at it as a minor effort or something that won't have positive impact. It's not just about supporting the youth to play ball, but because of the multiplier effects it has on our communities. There could be some that will have the opportunity to become something, or maybe turn basketball into their career, which they wouldn't have realized without these opportunities or without the opportunity of going out.
Certainly, the pursuit of a healthier mind can be achieved through the joy of sports, the strength of community, and the triumph of personal growth. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, Trust TV News.
Well, that story did capture the thriving and rising popularity of basketball youths in Kano and Katsina State. And that brings us to the end of our bulletin. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Feel free, as always, to follow us across our social media platform for more content and visit trusttv.com for more news. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. As always, thank you for your time and good night.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.